some heavy hitters. And please, it's time to roll our sleeves and have a conversation. So let me start this party off right. We have to set the stage for the background. There's some key events and dates as we discuss the future that you focus on. Dr. Wolfoff, in his book, Prayer Review Study of Public Conscience, said political and economic dominance within the arena of national power by any group of groups can lead to a cultural aggression that's designed to alter or reshape the total cultural environment of the language. That's Wolfoff. And if you haven't had a chance to purchase that book, read that book, understand it, but we need to get that because he talks about what happened after the Civil War. Two key events. 1865, Juneteenth, we celebrate that in Texas. But keep in mind that the plantation owners knew about it before this. They just didn't let us go. And in 1867, when they executed Maximilian down in Mexico, that was key for us because the Texas rebels, listen to me very carefully, they fled Texas and their last stronghold, there was a general, three-star general by the name of Edmund Curtis Smith. His headquarters, he was at his cousin's plantation called Activision. He was waiting on Jefferson Davis and the rest of those rascals to come into Texas. They was going to start that war all over again. They hightailed it into Mexico after they realized it was not going to work on them. They stayed down there and raised hell in Mexico. Mexico was over there talking too. And after the Civil War, they came back into Texas and tried to reassume power. And we're still struggling with that. So just keep that in mind. I'm just trying to set the stage for this conversation. Because we got to understand what we're dealing with. Because the question became, what do you now do with these newly free people? Us. These newly. And all the businessmen who were real willing to decide that they would get with the Southern aristocracy that was now back in power by 1876. These Confederates back in power. So Richard Coke was a Confederate. He said, we use education as a technique for social control. And some will go a little bit further and say, and we'll help to move permanently the caste status of the people. They started to experiment at Hampton. That's what Booker T was training. Went down to Tuskegee. And the experiment in Texas was prairie. This was an experiment. Because if you go 11 years after the war, Civil War in 1865 and 1876, you open up a university. Where you gonna get the students? What no high school? It was illegal for us to read and write. We got whipped. We got to keep this in mind as a transition because somebody's going to enter our mind. Just stay with me for a minute. So we get into this conservative activism, and we got to get this. We got some work to do. We're pushing up against a heavy load. It's not a light load. Our panelists were talking a little bit about it. I'm just trying to set the stage. Prayer Review produces productive people. It wouldn't even came into being if we didn't have political allies in Austin. We had to have William Howard, Matthew Gaines, these boys in Austin during that session. There wouldn't be no prayer because when they passed the bill, even though Gaines sponsored the bill, it was created A&M College for white males only. Not women, nobody else, but white males only. And Gaines caught me on the Holocaust, called them 10. And so they came back in special session because they were taking federal money for these land grants. See, there's two types of land grants. You need to understand that. It's 1862. It was passed after these routes were broken to the South. They voted it down, claiming state rights back when they first introduced it. So after they left, they passed the Land Grant College Act in 1862. That's A&M. That's the big one. Rutgers, Ohio State, Cornell, those big ones. Then they created prayer with a provision providing money for us. So we call it 1819 to 1890. Keep that in mind as we have this political discussion. Fast forward, 1964 to 65. Boy, voting rights, civil rights, right? But after that, we start pushing for those changes, what happened? King got the brain blown out, all he was done that on the mountain. It was a backlash, big backlash. And we got it to 85, 84, 85. Little bit of their Tony Thompson and others pushed for us to get re-recognized as one of the 3 universities of the first class in Texas. It's A&M, UT, and Prairie. And you heard the definitions of it. Nobody talked about equality. That's absurd. How can you dare me? Some would argue that this is a caste system, more so than race. Racism is a political construct. It's not a biological. Race didn't come into being until the British, especially culprits in this, realized that when they closed down their plantations in the islands out here in Barbados and other places, they migrated up to the mainland and had to confront the indigenous people, but they decided to exterminate them and probably send them up on that trail of tears up in Oklahoma. And then they had to deal with us. Because we raised hell down in these islands. Y'all were required to make it especially. They had hell down there. So they migrated up to the mainland. They started bringing in whites from Europe who they had been fighting against the Irish, the Spanish, the French. But when they got to America, they said, well, we're not fighting on white. So a lot of white supremacy coming in. Those mistakes have been said. I hope I didn't go too far. But I want y'all to understand this panel is a great panel. Let me get the name right. One of my know two of them, I know really. We got Senator Ross West from the 23rd District in Texas. Senator West has been a champion for prayer. There was 2 people we could depend on when we go lost. Ross West and Sylvester Turner. Those are our mainstay. They want to go together. We go to them before we go testify. And the first session I went to Dr. Hines. We asked for tuition revenue bond authority. And everybody made the list but prayer. So the way that we got to send the finance. He said, why are you praying not on the list? So they got to fund. They weren't sharp in terms of another chance. They weren't sharp, so they get little sharp. So Senator West told everybody from the A&M system to meet him in the back. And be in the baby. He used a very strong and colorful language. And the prayer review don't get a TRP, nobody's gonna get it. Let's just ask them. You've been on the champion. They talked about the juvenile justice system. Briefly talk about that. During the session, they had a bill filed, again, Dr. Hines filed a bill, the Great Texas Institute for the Study and Prevention of Juvenile Crime and Delinquency, because he said that if we were allowed what was happening to our kids in the street, if we weren't a nation, then all this carnage go on to our children in the streets, we would declare war. This was his declaration of war. And so we sold that idea to Senator West, Ellis, Turner, and they filed a bill. Those bills are still up there, dead as a doorknob, dead. Didn't pass. While I was in conference committee, he smiled. We started learning the game. I was a senator from South Texas. We got $250,000 to build South Texas medical center. He was making a placeholder. So me and Dr. Hines said that Hines brought up the sheet paper Great Institute and prayed for juvenile crime and prevention. And so I took the paper back and gave it to Garnet Coleman said, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a note to pray for budget. We use existing funds. They said, how much money are you talking about? He said, $65,000. Just pull it up out there. It's a great juvenile crime and prevention center, $65,000. I called Senator West's office, LaWanda went to work. She got hold of Tony Thompson, who captured Toby Goodman's bill. I'm just telling the truth. That already passed, and she said, you're going to put 25 cents on that for prayer. And there was the money. They gave up $1.6 million or more. felony case in Texas, and then some way we got it doubled. He said, "Don't you know this, right?" But we were able to do this because they had friends in political places, just like Holland and those guys. This was our go-to guys. Y'all didn't even know that these guys fought for us. They chanted and prayed. That's how some of those things came about. Then we have on my great family, going back to my I knew Myra, she was underbred. She was a devil. And the thing is, she was part of that Atlanta Honors College. And that was started back when we was trying to really get started after we started getting that money. And Dr. Ron came in, and Joe Preston came in, and that elevator, I used to buy all the books they recommended for those kids. They had a great set of books they wanted them to read this, great books, and then they brought in speakers like John Henry Clark, folks like that came in. So Maya came up in that system, and I saw it again up in Washington, D.C. Dr. Wright. She gave us great insight into how to approach legislature in Congress of the United States. The Black Caucus stuff, they do work for the foundation for a while.
I've been how I work on that. But it is mentioned the primary, the way that I really I ran a campaign for Hewlett Davis, who ran against Frank Jackson. Frank beat us. He wiped us clean, but it gave me incredible experience right there at Curtis. It was
we marched on that. We had
Absolutely.
we had Dr. Obadele there.
Absolutely.
It was great. So, and then we have Dr. Letitia Plum, Councilman at Large, position for cities. You got to take some of the questions.
We did just portray, so new to politics, second term. I serve as that large member in the city of Houston, so the entire city, I don't have a specific district, allows me to really focus on things that I believe change the way in which people live. So food insecurity, economic opportunity development, looking at public safety in a more different type of way, focusing on mental health, supporting press and pension teams. So I get to look at the Houston in a larger way versus a district member. We focus on the immediate issues of the city.
You broke the silence.
Yes.
Let me open up with Senator West. Let's get everyone right now.
Good afternoon, each and everyone. Before I get started, Frank Jackson is a treasure. And the fact is that I've been fortunate to be a state senator in Texas 32 years. And when I first became state senator, one of the things I was invited to do was to come and find out my TV. Let me take you back. When I got ready to run for state senator, there was a man by the name of Ellie Bradford. He was a graduate hurricane. And he basically told me, he said, "Boys, I will support you. So that you never forget this whole period." And I think that I moved to that. I'd be remiss if I didn't recognize my wife, Carol, brings us change and the velocity of it. What I've learned as a legislator is to follow the money. See that when some of you got to follow the money. I'm not going to take for granted that you know we went through the process and follow some other colleagues. What is the legislative actions? Why is it important? Legislative activism. You gotta be able to make certain that you understand that the Texas legislature is in fact dividing the state of Texas. The right way comes together the budgets, passes the budget. The only thing we have to do every year is to pass every legislative session, which is every other year, every odd year in the state of Texas. To pass the budget. That's all we have to do. And you as a runner must get involved in that process. You must, as a national body, you've got to figure out who in this organization is going to be one persons in order to make sure that they're involved in this process. If you want every year to get its fair share of money. Every year, I'm not in the every year, the legislature passes dozens of bills. The only way to pass is budget. That's money. That budget now is over $200 billion. That's how big it is. The legislature is made up of two chambers, House and Senate. In the Senate, there's 31 of us in the Senate. There's 150 persons in the House. How many African Americans in the Senate? Two. That's it. Two out of 31. And we should. How many of you from Houston, Texas? We should have had 3. No, Jarvis Johnson. That would be the first time we've ever had 3 in the entire state of Texas. But they ended up losing that election to a newcomer. The reason he lost is because we didn't vote. We didn't vote. And Jarvis has heard his best interests, as well as all the other members of the Black Caucus. We told her who was Texas Southern, other historical Black colleges that we had in the state. In terms of the rest of it, just kind of goes through exactly how long it's taking office, et cetera, et cetera. Let's keep moving forward. The budget is passed. Again, every alternative year. And frankly, the agencies come up with different, we're going to go this called LAR, legislative appropriation reform. This year, the Senate will lead the budget discussion, so it originated in the Senate and go to the House. Agencies and institutions are now going through the request process, the legislative appropriation process with the LAR. That's what that acronym means. You need to make sure you understand what that is. What is LAR? Again, exactly what I said. Each institution and or state agency must put forth what they're requesting from the legislature in order to appropriate. So that begins the particular process. That's what Prairie View and other institutions are going through right now. You need to make certain that you understand where you can find the legislative appropriation. You, as a citizen, can go online and find the legislative appropriation request. And again, you can see it up here on the left side, tells you exactly where to go online in order to see it. And you can track it through the entire process if you're interested. And probably go 3%. So you can get that. This is just an example of all the different agencies that put up their legislative program. Introduced figure out exactly where you come in order to address it. Again, this is regardless. This is an example. This word is just these are stated some federal corporations and they obviously not and other things. Again, if you go online, you can see all of this. It tells you exactly the difference. Look at Run 425, and it gives you an idea of the monies that have been appropriated. We have categories that the monies are supposed to have plugged in those specific categories. The association needs to university spend different types of categories. We can have those. Now, how do you follow the money? It's important that you, as an organization, figure out who will be working in order to make certain the purview is fair share of dollars. Just like the president said earlier this morning, you got to know exactly what the president's priorities are, and then make sure you're working that your priorities are in alignment with the president. You come down and visiting the legislature. The fact is, when you're visiting the legislature, it should be done in conjunction with because you're going to have a presidential election around the 21st of January, you're going to have all pomp and circumstances, et cetera, et cetera. So coming down is fine, but those of you that are going to be working on a budget, making certain priorities of where you are addressed, will need to be making some business prior to the legislative session. Okay? This is for purposes of us going through the process of doing that. You got to follow the money. And you heard Chancellor Sharp, let me just say this, John Sharp and I have been friends for a long time. And we agree on most things, some things we disagree on, and we cuss each other out. Okay? And still be able to sit down and work with each other. We all, I was president of the student body at the University of Texas when I was in college. He was the president of the NAA. So we know each other way back. That's all I'm back. So you got to, he talked about a term this morning called the 80 letters. Permanent university. The money's back in 1876. It was set aside for higher education in the state of Texas. In A&M, Texas, in Purdue, recipients, and as well as other schools within the system, recipient of those funds. But the Permanent University Fund, the West Texas, all the way up west. Okay? Set aside, set aside to fund higher education in the state of Texas. Okay? So that's where the great amount of money that we use around universities coming from. You'll hear some other things about the land grant college. We talked about that during the last presentation. And I can tell you now, this past legislative session, and Frank talked to me about this past legislative session was the first time that we were able to get a dollar-to-dollar match in the history of the state of Texas. Now, y'all know what that means. What that basically means is that we were able to get full appropriation, to pull down the monies from the federal government. And just to show you, A&M, at the beginning, they had the money. It was the first year that we did. And you don't need to clap anything. It's a damn shame.
Yeah.
It's a damn shame. And so this association, this alumni association, you've got to help us do what needs to be done. That doesn't need to be a law. We need to make certain that we institutionalize perfect in this full funding in order to pull down the federal funds that it needs for this particular program. And again, Frank Jackson taught me that a long time ago. And this right here, this kind of gives you an idea what the difference has been. And we've been able to pull down money. Like right now, 1987 to 2020, the difference was like $4,800 per student. Can you imagine $4,800 would have meant per student? Per student. Okay? And that's been the difference. This is this year across the United States of America. Now, lobbying. I'm I'm about lobbying. You must be strategic in your lobbying. I mean, the fact is that you need to be able to lobby for the members of the delegation that represents Prayer. Okay? You've got to be able to represent, you've got to lobby the members that are involved in committees that have jurisdiction over higher education in the state. These are persons on the committee, I'm not going to go through all of them. These are persons that are on the committee. Chair is John Campbell. You got to make certain that you touch base with his office, making certain that you identify a person in the office that you have communications with, because you won't get to see the chair every time you go down there, but you got to identify a person in the office that you can educate as it relates to you. In the Senate, it's a guy by the name of Brandon Gray. He is the chair of higher education, higher education is part of it. You got to make sure you do the same thing. Identify someone in that office that you can have a relationship with and talk to them about the things you heard. I'm on that committee also. What do? You got to make sure also contact the leadership. Governor's office, the speaker's office, and the lieutenant governor's office. And get a point person that's responsible for higher education, and specifically the budget. And all of this needs to be done, frankly, starting in September, when they be moving forward with the strategic planning in coordination with the university. And frankly, most persons will sit down and visit with it. If for some reason we have a problem, get in contact with one of them. Well, call the president's office first, but if you can't get it done, that's when you call me, okay? And we'll get it. But you've got to establish having a point person in these offices. When you're lobbying for the priorities that are set up by the president for the university. That's what you do. And you may have two. Reality is that if you get 5 or 6 of them done, that's a hell of a session. That's a great session. If you get 2 or 3 of them done, that's a great session. But you got to make certain that it's aligned with the president and whatever their strategic plan is, the strategy is, make certain that you're aligned with him in order to effectuate it. I tell you now that you don't need to come see me. All right? I'm already in line. Frankly, you don't know if you need to go see a bunch of members of the Black Caucus because we're aligned with you. So don't waste your time trying to lobby us about what you're trying to do. And it's important that you let those of us that are on appropriation and finance know. But don't spend a lot of time on us. Spend time on other persons. It's important that your state senator and also your state representative that's representing Purdue, that you have a very close relationship with them. Because what ends up happening is that they will carry the water in order to get things done for Purdue. And some of us that are on the same committees that they're on, that will help them push the agenda for Purdue. Hopefully this gives you an idea of what you need to do. I look forward to answering any questions that you might have. Thank you very much.
We're not here from Dr. Meyer.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. It is my pleasure to be here for several reasons. One, of course, is that this meeting here in this place is a fruition of your alumni president, Dr. Mark Halls, having met with Chancellor Sharp and actually lobbied for them to actually support this effort way in advance of this date. So we actually have it after our congratulations. The second thing I want to say is it's rare, first of all, that we got our first African-American female leader of this institution in the form of Dr. Bruce Simmons, who was an excellent, phenomenal leader who generated tons of members. That's being followed up by the second female president of African-American, who is a dynamic we actually have two very dynamic leaders who are women. And I just want to say thank you to Dr. LeGrand for actually having me, although I didn't make the session this morning, for having me to be here to speak. There is a reason why Prairie View's enrollment and that of other HBCUs across the United States is up right now. Does anybody want to hazard a guess why?
Super Bill 17.
Senator 17, tell me.
You know, as well as I know, what's happening is that they're trying to close the door. African Americans and other minorities to go to white universities. DEI and also the CRT. Affirmative action, Supreme Court, decision on affirmative action, race is no longer used as a factor in commissions.
You are absolutely correct. We are in the midst of what I call the Great Recession. This is a cycle that has happened previously several times in this country, where whenever we push for advancements, whenever we secure advancements, whether it be, the 13th, 14th, 15th Amendment, there is backlash. And this is documented. We know that, in 1879, that backlash actually resulted in basically a negotiation between the two parties in which they basically suppressed the rights of African Americans that had been won immediately after slavery. And now, we know that, of course, this has happened. Also, of course, this is actually now trying to roll back all of the things we made with civil rights. They are trying to systematically roll back. They've already taken affirmative action. They're attacking diversity, equity, and inclusion strategies. And guess who feels that? Students feel it. It's one of the leading edge indicators of what is happening in our country overall with regards to race rights, our racial opportunities and rights. They are attacking voting rights. They are attacking certainly DEI, as I mentioned, and other things. This is a part of a larger strategy by the conservative right wing, no matter if you're calling those conservatives Democrats, which they did in the late 1800s, or Republicans, which we're calling them now. It is a strategy where they seek to generationally keep us down and oppressed. Okay? Now, a part of this strategy has also been to systematically underfund our HBCUs. Yes, as Frank Jackson mentioned, the creation of these HBCUs were an experiment. They wanted to see how they could, create institutions that never had enough, but could be sufficient enough to control our education and our opportunities, to narrow the scope of what is available to us in this country. And I am here to tell you today that we are in a historical moment. We cannot let this happen again. We arguably have more resources, more opportunities, more connectivity than we've ever had in the history of this country. And we owe it to not only our ancestors, but we owe it to our children and their progeny in the future to not let the cycle continue. I'm not here to promote my book, but I can tell you my book's coming out next year. It's called Racism. Racism, Ageism, and the Quest for Liberation and Democracy. And what I'm arguing is that we actually have to form the coalitions. We have to develop the strategies. We have to actually adopt the execution and execute with fidelity. A strategy to actually provide a bridge to the future that is inclusive, that is diverse, and that provides all people, regardless of race, ethnicity, education levels, etc., religion, with the sexuality, with the opportunity to move forward towards a diverse and inclusive future. By the way, if you think that we're going to only negotiate an opportunity in the future for Black Americans and not include everybody else, you are sorely mistaken. Because coalition building is about working across differences, recognizing your common interests, and getting over those differences in order to push an agenda that gets everybody to the finish line. And so with that, the roles of HBCUs are incredibly important. I mean, historically, you know, they've known it's important. That's why they've sought to systematically underfund our universities. And we absolutely cannot continue to let that happen. It is because of people like Logan and Delta and, you know, all of these people who have historically made a difference in terms of funding and the lawsuits that have happened, not just in Texas, but in other states across the country where HBCUs have basically lobbied and successfully won more resources for the university because of systematic discrimination. The fact of the matter is that politics is the vehicle. Politics is what when we have. They distribute and determine who the people who are actually serving in these political roles. Without that, you know, we gotta give it up for people who are serving because they are on the front lines. Everybody here. For all of the great work that he has done, Frank Jackson, for all of the great work that they have done at every level of government to make a difference for our communities. So politics is the vehicle through which this gets done. But can I tell you what the spoils of war is? It's public policy. When Royce West is talking about the appropriations process, that is public policy. That is the content. It is the content of what decisions that policymakers make, who are also known as politicians. But the content of what they actually get done. If you can control what goes into that public policy, how those resources are distributed and who they go to, then you have literally won the war. But get this, that's real power. But get this, that means that we have to be seeding other Royce Wesses. We have to be seeding and developing and watering and growing the people who know how to write the policy. We need to be seeding and watering and supporting and growing the people who know who they might not be on the front lines making decisions like the Royce Wesses, but they're sitting, their staffers in the back who are saying, oh, this policymaker over here is saying this, but this is what we really need to do in order to actually make sure the prairie benefits. Oh, by the way, did you notice the numbers on this? And this is how we need to change the numbers in order to make sure that the prairie gets what they need. We have to have an army. We have to have an army of operators who are sophisticated. We need to up our game. Because yes, it is about voting. I'm going to come and return to the question of voting next. But it's also about having people strategically positioned at every line of the chain, the political and policy chain, in order to make a difference. And you don't do that with small groups. You do that by thinking strategically, by thinking generationally, and by thinking and plotting and planning to make sure that you have people who can represent your interests at every stage of the process. And so, how do you go about building this advocacy army? I actually have a proposal. Now, Southern University has jump-started us because they are the very first HBCU in the country to actually have a school of public policy. But I think that Prairie View needs one right here in the state of Texas. And this is why I think that this is important, because it seems like an innocuous thing to have a school of public policy. But get what you get in the process. You have a pipeline of students who are going to do internships at the state legislature, who are going to do internships at the Houston City Council, who are going to do internships in the U.S. Congress. Now, when I came along, we didn't have anything, really. All we had was, unfortunately, we got to know, there were two of us who, when I came along, who were political science students in the political science department of liberal arts, who got, somehow we got some kind of opportunity to go to DC. We didn't have money. So somebody from the Alumni Association contacted somebody, and the next thing you know, we were in DC because the alumni paid the bill. And that seemed for me an opportunity to do all kinds of things. I have worked on legislation that has made a difference for the world and for the nation. I have been to the White House a multitude of times. I have to meet my late husband, the late Congressman Elijah Cummings on Capitol Hill. I mean, who would have ever known that, my little internship opportunity that I got when I was at Purdue, and the alumni helped me get to, would have made all the difference in terms of my life. And the work I do now has come from those early opportunities for advocacy strategies. And so we need to be thinking strategically about how to build that advocacy army. And I just want to add to Senator West's arguments about how we actually lobby. And by the way, lobbying is different from advocacy. But you know, you can do subtle lobbying through advocacy work without ever having to declare yourself a lobbyist. And that is going in with your data, having the facts down, having an easily accessible one-page data fact sheet, going in with your talking points, making sure that everybody is singing from the same tune because you have your talking points. The third thing is making sure that your messenger matters. If you're going into XYZ Senate office or House office, legislative office, make sure that you have the most effective messenger who's going to resonate with either that policymaker or his or her staff. And also, make sure that you are, you're lobbying the right level of government and making sure that they have jurisdiction over the issues that you're seeking to influence. And so, we also, of course, one last thing I want to say on that is sometimes you have to up the pressure. When stakes are big, whether we're talking about multi-millions or billions of dollars, then, when things matter, when it talks about the future of our institution, sometimes pressure makes a difference. And there are strategies that you use for a pressure campaign. You don't always use pressure in a big way, in this way. Media, leveraging the media, writing op-eds, issuing white papers that you didn't know, and drive home in the media. Sometimes you demonstrate, but I argue that demonstration and other public spectacles like that only have to come in at strategic points and very rarely. And so I do think that we have to get more sophisticated, not only as an alumni association, but as a people. African Americans, we have to go to our next level of sophistication. And that means to understand that voting is just the ticket to get in the door. But this thing called politics and public policy is a 24/7 endeavor. We have to constantly be sitting at the door. And with that, I just want to say thank you.
Let's now hear from Dr. Letitia.
Thank you. Thank you so much for allowing me to be here. So as I mentioned before, I'm a city council member at large, position 4 for the city of Houston. So I represent the entire city. And I am a graduate of an HBCU, graduate from Spelman. And so being here with all of you is really an honor, and I really understand the importance of what this group is, not only for you now, but also for the future. And I want to talk a little bit about what our responsibility is from a municipality perspective. So there's federal money, there's state money, but it also really ends up being how does the local government, those are the ones that really touch you. Those are the people that actually make immediate change in how your life is. And so I want to touch a little bit of pieces of how Houston can assist with the alumni chapter, really allow them, the students, really end user, right? When your students graduate and come back home to see if Houston or wherever they find home, it's our responsibility to make sure they have affordable housing. It's our responsibility to make sure they have access to internships and job placement. It's our responsibility to make sure that we are leading in diversity and inclusion, and so the corporations that are in the city of Houston also follow that same level of platform. In the city of Houston, we have multiple opportunities in terms of entrepreneurship. We have a Department of Office of Business Opportunity, and that specific department allows entrepreneurs to not only be able to procure and be small businesses, but also training and leadership. And we need these students that want to be in business, that want to be entrepreneurs. The city of Houston spends millions of dollars in terms of procurement. They need to be able to have the access to a member of city council like myself or their district member to help them move through those processes. But you also need people on council that actually advocate. And one thing that I make sure every single time an item comes on our agenda, I make sure that not only is an MWBE allotment there and there, But as we move more toward co-ops, which are procuring larger entities like a Grainger or a Home Depot or a Lowe's, versus using our smaller mid-sized to small businesses, we need to make sure we have an opportunity. And so I wrote ordinance to ensure there's now a carve out. So when we use a co-op, a larger entity, they have by law now, 25% of that particular allocation is going to a minority-owned business. That typically isn't done when it comes to procurement. That's normally done to service. So, contracting deals, electrical deals, road and bridge infrastructure. But it's never been done in the space or actually now creating a carve out when it comes to supply purchases. And that's a big deal. And so leadership definitely matters, representation matters, and that's one space that any entrepreneur coming from PV that wants to do business with the city, they have someone on council that can advocate for them. The other piece is healthcare. You have an amazing nursing program. Why aren't we seeing more of our nurses in our city of Houston health facilities? Why aren't we seeing more alliances and communication with our Harris Health Division, which, as many of you know, Harris Health is a large community-based healthcare facility that I don't see a lot of our PV nurses at. I see UT and I see A&M, but I don't see PV. And that's somewhere I really want to assist with creating those relationships and bringing those nurses into those spaces. Because that allows them now to go into the Anderson and Methodist and the other TMC network that we have, because we are rural renowned. And many of us, people of color, we have more issues with comorbidities. We have more health issues than anywhere, in any other race. But when we go into a hospital and we don't see someone that understands our fight, understands what we experience from a cultural perspective, we have a lack of trust. And I think we've talked a lot about that already. So it's important for us to create those alliances with PV, with their nursing schools, to allow us to be more visible in our community-based healthcare systems. And the last piece of it is criminal justice. We in Houston, and actually housing as well, but I'm going to touch criminal justice first. We have a very big issue with criminal issues in the city of Houston. Our public safety is something that we spend more than half of our physical budget on. But mental health is also something that we focus on. And so 2 years ago, I put forward a proposition to put $2 million toward MCOT Insert. MCOT is a medical crisis outreach team, and that is when someone deals with a criminal issue, but they're dealing with a mental health issue. A police officer does not go to that particular location. A social worker does. And these are potential students that could be those social workers on the ground. So someone that likes to be in criminal justice and they understand that piece, we also want to be in the social services side. That is a place where they can be as well. And the city of Houston now is contributes to that. We have 12 teams on the ground currently. And finally, housing. How do we ensure that housing is affordable for our graduates that come to the city of Houston? I mean, as we know, the average graduate from college earns about $30,000. That is really hard when an average home in the city of Houston is upwards of $250 to $300. How do we ensure that these graduates from PV come to the city of Houston and can be in an area in the city that not only gives a good school for their children, their families, but also is able to afford a home that's in a safe environment? And finally, transportation. When our students come back, a lot of them don't want to drive. But just recently, we lost $2 billion, on a Metro Next project because our current administration and the Metro Board decided to not receive the federal money to create the university line. 25 miles of transportation that will allow people to go from the west side of Houston all the way down to LBJ. That alone is prejudice in a lot of ways. You've now eliminated the opportunity for people to live in an area that is less expensive, but also wants to go to school, maybe do a master's program. This line is going to touch every single academic facility that we have in the city of Houston. And it also takes people of lower income communities to LBJ, which is our brand new, we just passed a bond to build LBJ, a brand new county hospital. And so having someone on council that represents you at large is very important. And you have my commitment to work with not only the Alumni Association, but any other department at Prairie View to allow whatever access or resources or that you are desiring to work with me in my specific office to make sure that your students, the students of PV, come to Houston and have an amazing experience and are able to have their families thrive. Thank you.
Let's shift the focus a little bit on student activism. We've heard from these great speakers today. Let's talk about student activism in just a brief second. We have over 4,200 students that live on campus, correct? Somewhere like that. And we have about another 1,000 that live out in the community. The population of Prairie View at the last census was 6,000, a little over 6,000 people. That means that is a majority student city. During this last election, I think we had 200 to 300 students to vote. That's a major problem. We can get them registered, but how do you get them to actually vote? Because people look at those numbers. Now this year we got a county commissioner's race coming up. He's a former student of Prairie View, SGA president, member of the city council. Now he's a county commissioner because of the students. He got them motivated with that election. But this year it's going to be a little tough because they rallied now, so got his hands full this time. But we can do it. Let's talk about student activism. How do we get these young folks educated to the process? And then how do we get them out to vote and get involved? So I'm going to let the panel answer that, and I want to hear from the panel.
So I just want to say that when I was at Prairie View, we had exciting folks like Frank Jackson who were running for office and caused us to come out. But let me just say this. Did you know that Prairie View and Prairie View students were responsible for the U.S. Supreme Court case that actually determined that students could vote where they actually go to school in the United States of America? Do you know that? In 1971, the United States passed the 26th Amendment, which actually lowered the voting age from 21 to 18. But it wasn't until 1979 when the Supreme Court case Sim versus the United States, which is the Prairie View generated case, that where Waller County was doing what Waller County do, which is always, because when I was there, they tried to restrict our rights to vote. They tried to restrict it at every cycle, voting cycle ever since. And it happened in the 1970s, and the Prairie View students, they took it all the way to the United States Supreme Court. The Supreme Court made a decision that students who are at universities, regardless if it's in the HBC or not in the United States of America, have the right to vote where they attend school. Prairie View was the institution that generated that U.S. Supreme Court decision, which means we have a historical obligation to make sure that we continue to make sure our students are engaged and involved. I was the chair of the Social Action Committee for Delta. There are people who are the chairs of social action committees for their sororities and fraternities who should be involved. I was the political science president. There are political science presidents now who should be involved. This should be a student-driven campaign to educate and activate students. It's a peer-to-peer network that needs to be lit.
So we're going to have to make sure students know Black support. A lot of them don't see whether you're Democrat or Republican. I'm a Democrat. Both parties are basically the same. We've got to make sure that my support for that too. When we begin to think about the issue concerning student debt, who has the best program, Democrats or Republicans? Well, Democrats. We need to make sure that they understand and appreciate that they may very well be able to get some of that student debt that they are accumulating right now. Forget it. We've got to make certain that students understand that right now there's a group of persons in this country that's talking about a 2025 climate change. And what the ramifications and implications of that is for the you see, where I look at it, I'm in the fourth quarter of my life. And I'm not going to be on that ship that's going to colonize the moon or go to Mars. They need to understand that there are opportunities that they don't even comprehend right now that will be within their lifetime. But if we don't get them to appreciate that we're looking and possibly we very well be the victims of the ending of the third Reconstruction period in our history. They need to understand that, and that when they see those black and white pictures of dogs being, particular black people marching across the bridges and stuff like that, that's not just art, that's reality. And it can happen again if they don't get involved. And it's becoming for itself to make certain that there are opportunities in the back room so they get to understand how a budget is put together. They get to look at how Purdue's budget is compared to other person's budget and keep me informed as a legislator how I've got to make certain that I don't Purdue, Texas, Southern, other sort of black colleges get their fair share. They've got to understand that if we allow what's going on to continue to go on, we're going to be looking back at something. So we've got to make certain that people understand that you as an association that will, if pipeline is your students, then people that you got to make certain that they understand that they got to work with you in order to make sure that this strategic advances are made.
And I clearly agree with my colleagues. We have to give young people a reason to vote. I have 3 sons, 22, 19, and 21. And I often ask them, you might obviously have to vote because I make them vote. But I ask them, about their friends and what is the reason why all of you are not more engaged? And they say to me very often, number one, Mom, a lot of times they don't ask us what's important to us. And then number 2, the people that we're voting for don't always deliver what they say they're going to do. We have to make sure people that are running for office have conversations with young people and ask them the questions. They're our future. Oftentimes, we in our own minds think what's necessary. We know what affects us directly. When we don't go back to our young people and say, do you want to drive a car or do you want to be able to get on a train? Do you want to ride the bus? What's the best way for you to move around the city? Do you want to live in a big house or would you prefer to have something smaller? Do you want to even own a house? What do you want to work for a corporation or do you want to be an entrepreneur? We have to align with the things that our young people want to align with, and then they will get engaged. But if they keep on feeling that the messaging is about people that are over the age of 50, then they're just not going to get engaged. And I think shifting the idea or the concept in that space and creating our messages to be able to relate to them is something that's really necessary.
All right, we got a few minutes left, so we need to take a couple of questions on the audience. Anybody got a question?
Board of Regents, Texas A&M Board of Regents runs the A&M system. How many graduates per year have served on that Board of Regents?
Zero.
What has this Alumni Association done in order to make certain that we get someone that's graduated from Purdue serve on the Board of Regents? What have y'all done? I recommend exactly what it was, but it's the evidence. I recommending that when you go to that, you make sure that it eventually like costs know that you're going to. Also.
Y'all still like talking to y'all.
Can I ask a question? I'm sorry. So on this point, I think there are two strategies. Prairie View is not represented, but neither are the other, 12, 13, 11 universities. It's all Texas A&M. So is it better for Prairie View to go in about getting a permanent seat for Prairie View or having a coalition?
Coalition. So coalition is all. The chancellor has chancellor central. Every university have their own chapter, except for here. I found that out when I joined. Okay. So I saw that twice. So I had it.
Hi, I put in an application.
Say that again.
I put in an application for the AM board in 2020. And I was told that I wasn't a Republican.
And plus you're a woman. That's another thing. So what we trying to do, talking about a coalition. Yeah. So the money, so the Joint Chancellor Century Club is in there for $500 to $5,000. Okay. But what I found out, when the chancellor get ready to implement things at the university, that's what he used the chapters for. It's under the Chancellor Century Club. So that's why I have to ask you to form a Prairie chapter in a university chapter under the Chancellor Century Club.
So I'm sorry, what's the privilege of the Century Club? They get to lobby the chancellor about what he recommends?
That also when they try to implement, one thing I shared with the chancellor is that they're making decisions in the culture that they know anything about. So one thing he said, well, Mark, I asked, how can we help you out? He said, well, there's no club. There's no club, no Prairie View and University club under his yeah. And so that's what I'm doing now. So we're talking about coalition. And that's another area that we can make an impact with the chancellor. I won't meet with him because he really supposed to be here until 2028. And I got that call 2025. So I'll be meeting with him. And so it's very important. There's other ways that we can get engaged. All right. Another thing you're talking about public policy, Frank. You and I was right there about the company. All we got to do is push it. Because it said it was with public policy. It's not in the higher education code. And so when I meet with them, that's another thing. You said you're going to help us with this public policy. With the public policy school at Purdue.
But we also see there's a process that we have to go through, which is to actually propose it to them formally and then have them take it to whatever the body is done. Higher education. So we gotta do this, and that's what we want.
Dr. LeBron is very much aware. It's just so weird though. We came out of legal work. We were Republican.
Yes. Yes.
The head of the Republican Party in Texas was an African American named Norris Wright Q. Norris Wright Q didn't lobby. Yet these other guys elected. Now, they betrayed Q. The Republicans stabbed him in the back. And he switched over to the Democrats. The Democrats stabbed us in the back several times. And if y'all don't know prayer, like I know prayer, when they read through the lines, they did all that they want to do. And one time we kept every single member of the county of the Democrats in power. They shifted on. And the pockets of Democrat votes, guess what the largest pocket is? Prairie. And we've had the largest fight just for voting rights and kids. Well, y'all know this. And it's by design. And sometimes you gotta put money in this thing to We have to write a check, somebody have to switch parties. I'm talking fast. Well, give me a check, go there and say, okay, I'm ready for the public, here's your check. And then walks.
That's the reality.
That's reality. Once you get on it, then you got a voice. Okay, if it's a DRR, you got a voice. If they have their way, they show them like this thing down.
The chairman of the board of regents, Bill Mann.
Yes.
I've been on Bill for a long time. But he's Republican. And it's too hard to think that Adams appoint someone to a board or commission in the state of Texas, but it's pretty good in the other board, than someone other than a Republican.
Yeah.
That's right. That's the reality of the situation.
Now, the other way we can get out of this is by actually negotiating working the work to get a Democratic.
That'll work.
We haven't had one of them since the 80s.
It is possible if we put together a board.
Just and Richards.
We can't do it alone. We've got to have a board.
Yeah, we got right. Was that sign? That sign.
Association of Public Policy and Land Grant Universities. It's a policy, if you go to their website, and it talks about land grants, but unequal, talks about the money coming to the black land grants, the 1890s, which we need to get into that, it's a federal, that requires that until 1890. We need to get on that. Because there was no law that I found passed in 1890 in this city. So this is a policy thing that goes state by state, and a lot of these states have been using this to get their money. We gotta wrap it up. The chairman's at the door, so thank you. Let's give our time.
Let's keep those clock going. Let's get them clock going. Put it in political action, get active. Okay, folks, we in this conference, we have one session in movie theater at 3 o'clock, which is right here down the hall. The movie theater is at 3 o'clock. And then